Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Undiscovered Country, which marks something of a special occasion because this is us saying goodbye to this cast. For the most part, there's
Yeah,
like a couple of them appear in one more movie, and a lot, much later for us because we'll be doing it after Next Gen, but this is the goodbye to the original series crew, and it even plays like that, of course, in the movie. But this is the final
it is,
hurrah.
and this our goodbye to this era.
Yeah. So this marks the end of the record. It felt like a big deal when we finished the third season because it was like, okay, that's the first show done. And this is only six more movies, but it still feels kind of special to say goodbye to this crew. So yeah, this is the final of the movies, the original cast movies, and we will start spoiler free as we have done previously throughout these. I will give you a warning before we go into spoilers somewhere in the middle, and we'll dive into it. So yeah, so Undiscovered Country. I'd remembered it was sort of Klingon, sort of politically Klingon related, and the one thing I did remember was kind of the element where Kirk and McCoy spend some time in like a prison type planet. But that was really all I remembered. I actually got kind of confused at the start because the credits were coming up, and it said David Warner, and he was in the last one. He was
Yeah,
in five, as a human character, and I thought, oh, I didn't realize his character came back, and then he showed up as a Klingon, and I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. He's just a different character. All
as you
right,
do.
all right, fine. He's a Klingon now. Whatever. But yeah, so basically, an explosion happens on one of the moons of Kronos, Klingons' homeworld, and because of what's happened here, their atmosphere is crumbling, and they've got 50 years, give or take, until their planet is uninhabitable, and they can't survive in the system, at war with the other races. They need to at least be at peace so they can focus their efforts on fixing things. If not, just flat out need help in the long run, where they're going to have to live everywhere else and
Yeah,
have peace with everyone, naturally, because they'll be refugees, essentially. Um, and it becomes this case. Okay, is this a chance for peace? There is one key Klingon, Gorkin, who wants to. This is David Warner's character, who wants to build a peace treaty and sort of take away the neutral zone and change how things work. And Starfleet's sending Kirk and Co on their final mission to uh, basically just act as an escort to
yeah.
the Klingon vessel to come to Earth for peace negotiations. And unfortunately, though, the big driving force of the plot is that someone attempts to assassinate the Klingon commander. And the Klingon government, of course, see this as an act of war, and
Pretty understandably.
it sets us down this path of trying to prove who really did this, and also try and ensure that this peace talk does happen so that we can have peace. And that's the premise of the movie. So, actually, that's the question. Connor, did you enjoy The Undiscovered Country?
Not really.
Not
It's all
really.
right. I mean, I get what it's doing, but I found it kind of bland.
Okay. I would say I like it a bit more than you, I suppose. I think it's weaker than my favourites for sure of the movies. I like one, two, and four for sure more than it.
Yeah, yeah, nowhere near those.
It's way better than five. um,
Yeah, it's not as bad as five or even three.
I think this and three are kind of in a similar level for me. I think three has like more obvious big faults.
Yeah, three had like just entire arcs and points that I could go, nope, that is awful.
It had ups and downs because it had really good high points. This one's a bit more consistently in the middle between the two, the low and high points. Um,
Yeah,
but there's some nice character stuff that I like with Kirk especially. Um, I do like the general plot of like building peace with Klingons, and
yeah.
the final moments are quite good, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, but it's not as good as one, two, or four. Like not even
I think
by a long
yeah.
shot.
I don't think it's awful. Like I said, I think bland is probably my biggest problem with it. It's like
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like yeah, whatever. There are definitely some moments I like. There's the trial scene in particular. I think is great.
I think. Oh, by the way, their defense attorney in that scene was Michael Dorn, who plays Worf on Next
Yeah,
Gen. Uh, Not as Worf though. I'm wondering if that's supposed to be like Worf's like grandfather or father or something like that.
Probably.
Because keep in mind, by the point of this movie coming out, Next Gen was on like season 4 or something like that. Like Next Gen was well established by this movie.
Yeah.
So this was intentional. Having this,
Oh, absolutely.
Having him there to play this role. So I'm wondering if that's just meant to be like, you know, maybe there'll be like a casual mention.
What listed as in the credits?
Oh, that's a good
just
point.
Klingon defense attorney. That is not helpful.
Yeah, it's not helpful. I wonder if there'll be a line in Next Gen, like several seasons in, where his father was in a lawyer. Or grandfather, maybe, depending on the... Because it's like 70 years, I think, between...
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit more than just... But I mean, how long do Klingons live?
That's what I was saying. I don't know what their lifespan is, so it could just be father.
It could be, yeah. We are clearly not versed enough in Klingon biology.
And for all we know, this is a young, like, Worf father. This could be like 25-year-old Worf dad.
Yeah, and maybe goes to like 150.
Yeah, so, I mean, who knows? This is obviously just Star Trek nerdy lore shit.
Someone else can answer this.
Someone can answer for us, but unless it's a spoiler, unless there's actually like a reveal in Next Gen about who his parents are. In which case, don't tell us. Just let us discover that.
We'll get there.
But yeah, so I think the problems that I would give to the movie would be that one, while some of the stuff is fun, separating the crew as much as it does, I think hurts it a little bit.
Yeah.
Overall.
It's weird having Sulu just off on his own ship. I mean, it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that he's a captain now. He's got his own. He's got the Excelsior. He's on his own.
Yeah, and he probably deserves it. It's just weird that this is the goodbye to this crew, and he's just somewhere else.
Yeah, notably, his communications officer. They brought the yeoman back.
Yeah.
From the show, because I don't think she was in any of the other movies. Maybe she was in the first one, but
I don't remember her being there.
Yeah, I never recognised her. Because I think I remember saying she got shafted, because even Nurse Chapel was in that movie. So it was nice that they finally brought her back for a set. So she got promoted as well, because now she's on Uhura's position on this other ship.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird to have, you know, the goodbye to these characters and not have Sulu on the bridge.
I guess it's a nice send-off. I mean, I suppose you could just have him getting promoted at the end. Oh, now you're Captain Sulu. You're going to have the Excelsior, and
you
give them that send-off.
I mean, it's fine. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's character growth. It's just weird.
Also, Christian Slater has a small role on his ship.
He does, yeah.
He's around, so that's the thing. I feel there was another face I recognised, but my memory's escaping me now. But yeah, so you have that. So you have them split up a little bit, which I like, because I like the Klingon stuff for the most part. Actually, I like the idea that there's humans and Klingons, and even other races, but certainly humans and Klingons, because they're the main two that we're dealing with, on both sides that don't really want peace. They don't trust each other, and how the difficulty comes. So I think the ideology of what this is doing is actually really good. I just wish it just focused on that and
I think the ideas are really good. I don't think it's presented that well.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning Nicholas Meyer, who directed Can, came back and directed this one.
Yeah, I don't think this is anywhere near as strongly directed as Can.
So we. Do you know what's odd about it? I feel like the plot feels a little undercooked at times. Like, it feels like
it's kind of like stuff just kind of happens.
Kinda, like,
but at the same time, not that much happens.
They set up this big mystery about like who the attackers are early on. Obviously, we'll get to that in spoilers, but I felt like the actual the resolution to that and the reveals of who was behind it just kind of felt like, okay, this is simple enough. And in some ways obvious, I guess.
It was kind of the only option.
Yeah, kinda. So that felt a little bit weak, but
it did.
I think
I think that's part of my problem. Is that's supposed to be the main driving mystery of the plot. And you have the ideological stuff going on the side, but that's supposed to be the driving force of the plot. And ultimately, it's just kind of there.
It's weird. It feels like the plot of this, and how they sort of, because it almost was like a sort of a typical episode of the show, right? In terms of the mystery side of it.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like the main plot of this was actually not meant to be their final send off, but then they wrote in a lot of other elements to make it the final send off after the fact.
Yeah, which kind of gives it this kind of messy feeling at points.
Yeah, I guess I would hesitate to call it messy because I feel like it's simplified down enough that it doesn't actually feel that messy in terms of.
No. I agree. It's not like a messy film. Just in terms of the goodbye send off stuff is kind of at odds with the rest of it. It's just kind of there, and that in itself is a little bit messy.
Which is weird because I feel like you can actually spin this to say, no, the final thing Kirk and his crew ever did was start the peace with Klingons. That's actually a really nice fitting like conclusion to their journey, right? I mean that works, I think. So I think you could argue that they should do that. Speaking of actors, by the way, we mentioned Plummer as one of the Klingons, Chang. Kurtwood Smith plays the Federation president under a lot of makeup. So he's there as well. So there's a lot of faces in this one. It's also worth mentioning this one starts with a dedication to Gene Roddenberry. I didn't know when exactly he passed away, but I assume it was between the last movie and this one.
Yeah, I know the story of this one. It was because it was like 2 days after he saw the cut.
Oh really?
Yeah, because I remember I read this a long time ago where he had an argument about his opinion on the cut and with the director, and it got pretty heated, and then he died like 2 days later.
Do you know if Meyer
I don't know if
his
anything,
recommendations?
I don't, not as far as I'm aware. He never said that he did. But so I don't know.
That's a weird position to be in, because if you feel strongly as a director that you're doing the right thing, but
gotta
then the
do it,
creator
right?
of the whole thing passes away, and then you're like, do I take his
The
advice?
last conversation I had with him was him telling me this stuff is wrong.
Like, do I honor his memory and just do what he wanted because it was his thing?
But alternatively, he was pretty ill, I think.
Okay.
So it's like, well, was he? Was he in the best creative mindset?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, debates to be had.
There is, yeah.
But no, it was like, it's oddly, sadly fitting that the final original crew adventure has the dedication to the creator.
It does.
There's the weird like sad irony to it that just kind of works. And interestingly, you get the credits again at the end, and it's the signatures of all the main cast like writing across the screen, which I thought was weird. But
it was weird.
But it's whatever. It's them saying goodbye. Like, it's them saying goodbye to everyone. So it's like, yeah, because obviously we're saying goodbye to the characters, but that felt like the cast were just, oh, we'll sign our names in.
Yeah,
and...
so it's kind of weird that this movie, as much as it's a goodbye, it's also it's a passing of the torch to Next Gen, right?
Yeah.
It's weird that Next Gen's like 4 seasons in as you're doing that passing the torch.
I think it makes sense to me because, well, keep in mind, it was only 3 years after this where the first Next Gen movie comes out, so they're kind of passing the torch for the movies in a way, but it's also a way of honouring the show, which by this point had become really good and popular, where they're saying, no, we acknowledge that something's coming next, because the final speech, the final voyage speech even says, we'll be, this is the last time we'll have on this ship, and we'll be passing it on to future generations. That word is very specific. Like, they chose the word generations intentionally.
It is, and even the where no man has gone before is he does the no one.
Yeah, I actually never realized that there was a scripted change like that, because obviously it changed at one point because they realized, oh, this is a bit shit that we're specifying men, right? And because Star Trek, of course, is largely about being progressive, right? That's kind of the point. And somewhere along the line, someone realized, hey, wait a minute, it's kind of shitty we're singling out men in that phrase. I never realized that there was a moment in this movie that I, obviously rewatching it, I discovered again, where he actually says man and then corrects himself and says where no one has gone before.
Yeah, I think it's because the no one version is the Next Gen version.
Maybe right. It's been a long time since I've seen.
Which is why I say it's kind of the passing the torch thing, where it's like acknowledging that that's the new version of the speech.
That's the right version, really.
Yeah.
So I thought that was nice. And obviously, we're talking about a speech at the end of the movie here, but I don't think that's a spoiler because it's just the where no man has gone before speech. That's all it is.
It's the one that's at the end of all of them.
Yeah. Oh no, because we spoke about this last time.
We did. Okay, it's at the end of all of them now.
Yes. It was only at the end of a couple of the original movies.
Yeah. But we established that it's just a thing now.
Yeah. So no. So I think it's good overall. Like I think it's like I can happily skip 5 for the rest of my life and never watch 5 again. I will always watch this to round it off.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning you can skip because we said that it felt like Spock's journey to becoming Spock again ended at the end of 4, and then 5 kind of rehash parts of it. So you can happily skip 5, and it feels like you've missed nothing. Nothing of importance has been missed.
I'm trying to think if there's anything.
There's nothing. Even the fact that Kirk brings up, he's got a photo of his son, which, Joe, it's funny, one of my complaints was maybe going to be at the start when Kirk was so against, like, making peace with Klingons. It was bordering on just outright racist, the way he was speaking.
It was, yeah.
But it did a very smart thing where almost in the very next scene it reminded you that a Klingon killed his son, and it was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to give him a pass that he's this passionate about this, because it actually makes sense.
And it becomes relevant later as well.
Yeah, it does. And obviously that's part of his arc for the movie. It's like, no, we have to get past this so we can have peace. We have to get past our...
Yeah, him and Spock going like, well, hang on, are we too old for this?
Yeah, is it time to pass it on to new generations? Is this... Yeah. They knew it was the last one, and they knew, it was getting passed on to next gen. In a way, already had because of the TV show, but...
Yeah.
It's... but it's
which is why it almost works better us watching it like this. Like, just watching through to here and then going into next gen.
I know we agree, but I can see how it worked at the time as well. Because imagine you're a Star Trek fan, you're watching through next gen, you're on, I think, because it started in '87, I think. So I think you're on about season 4-ish. Maybe just ending 4, starting 5, or
ending 4, yeah.
Yeah. So I can see you love that show. You enjoyed the movies, but the only movie that came out since the show started was 5, and 5 was shit. So I imagine a Star Trek's fan in 1991, before this movie comes out, is probably that the old crew are probably has-beens, and they had great adventures, but the last movie was shit, and Next Gen's great. So I root for Next Gen more so. So I imagine that seeing this movie and seeing it kind of end with them saying, "Hey, it's their turn now. Like, we've officially let them have it."
I get that.
It works, I think.
Yeah, no, it does. I like the idea that in terms of the passing the torch elements for this order that we've chose to watch it in, that okay, we get them acknowledging that okay, maybe it's time for the new guard.
Yeah.
And then we move into what that becomes.
Yeah. It's funny, actually, obviously they've been getting gradually older as we go through here. And I felt like this was the only one where I feel like Shatner kind of looks like what I think of as Shatner looking like now. I mean, obviously he's older now and he's put on more weight now, but
yeah,
he looks more like I think of as the old man Shatner in this than because I think in the previous movies he still kind of looked like a younger Shatner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with it. Do you know who struck me as, I think the first time I went, do you know what, he's got older? Chekhov.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think he's his face finally just stopped being the youthful, rounded face that even in the last couple of movies he still had.
Yeah. At least compared to everyone else.
Yeah, compared to everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, one of my favorite lines in the movie is when they first get to the Klingon ship, the Bird of Prey, and they say to them, "Do you want to come over for dinner?" And David Warner, has what's his name, Gorkin. He's like, "Oh, I would be honoured to accept that invitation." And the comms go off, and everyone's getting ready to leave, and it just cuts to Chekhov sitting in his chair, and he just sort of says, "Goes, guess who's coming to dinner?" I can't do a Russian accent, but it's a neat reference because it's obviously the movie Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, but in this case it's Klingons. It's the Star Trek version of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Yeah,
I just thought that was a good line. So
it was.
I give that props. So no, I like the character stuff in this a lot. It maybe falters a little bit by just not being that interesting in terms of its main plot. Or at least as interesting as it should be, given what's happening.
Yeah, it should be a lot more intriguing. It
feels a bit lukewarm in that front, but the character stuff I think is pretty solid. So yeah. So I think I'll say spoilers now. Say full spoilers for the movie, and we'll get diving into it. So one of the things interesting in this is that now the Klingons do have a prototype bird of prey that can fire while cloaked, because that's been the rule up until now.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with them changing it, because I'm okay with them saying, no, now they've got an even better one. This is now the dangerous. This is the Jaws.
It's progression. It's fine. Yeah.
And that kind of sets up how the Klingon, because I love that it was a Klingon who was kind of the main person who was behind the assassination attempt. Now it turned out to be a kind of an assembly of things with all these different races, like all had a hand in it.
Yeah.
But I liked that the Klingon kind of was the main, plumber, who I could tell immediately was chatting as soon as he started speaking. And hey, by the way, tidbit here, bit of trivia. This was originally meant to be Kevin Spacey, but Christopher Plummer got the role after Kevin Spacey dropped out.
Okay, that's probably for the better.
In case anyone thinks I'm being serious, I'm joking, right? It's a joke.
Yeah. Just to be sure, because it's not like it would be the first time.
First, well, that's why I'm making the joke.
No, no, but it's you know, it's not like it'd be the first time that it could have happened.
Sure.
You know, people dropping out movies and being replaced is not that uncommon.
Thank you. You've over-explained it so much that it's no longer funny. But so and we get Sarek back as well, which is nice. Again, it's more of a send-off for most of the people.
Yeah, I think he's only there a little bit, right?
Yeah, he's only there a little bit.
It's kind of weird that he had the in the credits at the start. His name was there.
It's just because he's notable. It's like a contract thing.
Yeah,
he gets the special mention.
And then he's there. I think he says like one line or something like that.
Yeah, he was notably sitting down in both of his scenes as well. I'm wondering if the actor was maybe sold at that point that maybe he couldn't. That was the condition. He has to be sitting down in all of his scenes just because.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
which is fine. I'm not complaining about it.
Nice to see him. Don't get me wrong.
So I like the whole idea of like, no, we can change things here, and this will because at one point Gorkin, after he kind of realizes that Kirk's been kind of uncomfortable through the dinner, and because we have this dinner scene, of course, where there's a line of our crew and then a line of Klingons on the other side, and Gorkin says, "Oh, you don't really trust me, Captain," and I get that this is tough, but for our generation, this bright future that we're trying to build to will be the hardest because we're the ones who have all the memories. He doesn't say this. That's where he sort of stops speaking, but the implication is that we are the ones who have all the memories of all the war, of all the hatred between each other. This will get easier in time. By the time we get to Next Gen and it's Worf on the Enterprise, it'll be a bit easier because they'll have grown up with this idea. Yeah,
it's something that plays into the Cold War themes that are in this movie. The idea that it's hard at the time to really give up those rivalries, right? Because they remember like with fear of each other, whereas as time goes on, it gets less aggressive.
Yeah. So I like that side of it, and I like the idea that when Gorkin does get assassinated, which by the way, the blood CGI in a 1991 movie.
Yeah.
Now I realise that Terminator 2 came out in 91, and the CG in that obviously holds up fairly well for what it is, because
Yeah.
Because James Cameron.
Because he threw a shitload of money at it.
Same with the Abyss. The Abyss came out in '89, and the water CG in that for the water, I'll call it Avatar. No pun intended, because I'm not talking about Cameron. But there's like a water face at one point, and it holds up pretty well for what it is. Like I don't. When you watch that movie now, not that I've done that in a long time, because the freaking movie's not out in anything other than non-anamorphic SD. And that bastard, he's got the 4K master sitting waiting to be approved, but he's too busy. Leave Pandora for one day. Watch the damn master and approve it as a director.
Is that actually true? Was just waiting on his approval.
That and True Lies, he's got them sitting there in the house.
I want to watch this movie.
He did an interview this week. This is a bit of a tangent. He did an interview this week where he said that both that and True Lies, Abyss and True Lies. Now, True Lies, I want a HD as well, but at least the DVD's anamorphic, so it's viewable. It's
not as desperate. Yeah.
It's still watchable in its current state. But he's got both of them there. He's had them for a while. He sort of basically outlined how long it would take him to approve both. He said it would take something like 20 hours of work because he has to go through it and do notes for color timing and stuff like that. He just wants to make adjustments, right?
Is that 20 hours of work each or like 10 each?
Yeah, I think it was total 20 to 25 hours total, right? And he says right now he just doesn't have that, but he did say that he wants to get it done by the end of the year. And given that we're in hitting December when he made that comment, he's intending on doing it this month.
So you might get a release
in 2019.
Yeah.
I see. As soon as the Abyss is available in HD, we're doing it on Influx. It's happening because I have been dying to watch it for a long time.
I'll allow it just because. I've been intrigued to watch it. I've gone, we all watch that every so often, and then I remember it's this bastardized shite unwatchable version.
Yeah, Joe, the best part about
never mind.
Is obviously we'll watch the special edition because that's the proper version, right? And I can't wait to tell you what wasn't in the theatrical cut.
Is it going to be like all of this stupid shit that should just is essential?
Very essential. You'll be gobsmacked at what wasn't in that theatrical cut. So, anyway, but back on topic. So yeah, CG blood, very bad. But yeah, so what I was saying, I like that. So the Klingon Gorkin dies.
Yes.
And McCoy and Kirk are there because McCoy's trying to save him, and it doesn't work. And they're suspicious of Kirk and McCoy, but they kind of let them work on him and then arrest them after the fact. But as the Gorkin's dying, he says to Kirk, "Don't let this be the end of it," knowing that this death will cause a ruckus in the potential peace. He's like, he says to Kirk, "Don't let this be the end of peace. Like, do it, fight for it." And I like that because it was like, obviously they come from both sides of the line. They're opposites in so many ways. And I think there's something touching about the idea, because the Klingon is traditionally a character who is meant to be the angry one. That is, as a race of people, that is their characteristic. They like war, they like fighting, they're angry. And there's something kind of touching about Kirk being the angry one, and this Klingon who has kind of seen the light, saying to him, "Please fight for peace, because we need it." And it's kind of touching. I think it hits Kirk in that moment. So, but by the time we get to the end, and Kirk's kind of admitting that maybe he's, he was, had blind rage. Because even everyone, at the end of the movie when they're getting back in the ship before the final speech, even Chekhov and that's like saying, "Hey, we all had kind of bad thoughts when they suggested this. We were all kind of doubting it and said, oh, we should just, I mean, Kirk outright said, 'Let them die.' He said that line at the start of the movie."
Yeah, that was pretty vicious.
Yeah.
Even for Kirk.
Yeah, so I like that arc. I like that arc in the movie. That is the best thing about it. And then the send off with the speech and all that stuff.
I think the outside of the character moments like that, I think the highlight scene for me is definitely the trial. I thought that was a lot of fun, and them twisting it, and McCoy giving his defense.
Yeah, and
and him desperately and just like, "I tried to save him."
Yeah, and you believe him when he yells that. You believe he was trying his best to save him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, they get sent off to a prison planet, and they end up.
Yeah, I thought the prison break section was kind of just forgettable.
Yeah, that's the part that feels like it could just be like an episode of the TV show. Like, this was just a plot in an episode. It'd have been fine in an episode, but it feels kind of lackluster in a movie.
Coming after the previous movies, especially, I think if this had been the first one, it would have got away with a bit more.
Yeah.
So given where we are after the last, especially to 2 through 4.
Yeah. I mean, I like Spock being smart enough to plant the tracker. Oh, in fact, speaking of Spock, he drops a colourful metaphor at the end.
He does, doesn't he?
Because there's jokes throughout about him not being human again, of course, because there always is. And they get orders to go back to Starbase for decommission, right?
Yeah, it's like, that's it. Report in, you're done.
Right. And obviously, one of the points in the movie is that Kirk says, "Yeah, I've occasionally disobeyed orders," when the occasion calls for it. Yeah. And they all kind of look around. They're really sad that this is the end of their final trip. And it's Spock. Spock, the least, this is the joke, of course, is that Spock's not human, but in many ways he is more human than some of them.
And he goes, if I were human.
If I were human, I would say, to hell with them.
Yes. If I were human.
If I were human. And then Kirk just smiles and gives the order to, just ride into the sunset, essentially.
Yeah, well, the second star on the left, full speed ahead.
Yeah, so it's really sweet in that regard. I like it. Oh, obviously they race back because there's a new peace treaty location with everyone showing up, and the crew have to get there. And because I actually wish it had focused more on this, where they made more of a deal about them having to race back and try to figure out what the assassination attempt was going to be. Because it felt very rushed how they come in and immediately say, "Oh, go up there, Scotty," and he gets the sniper.
Yeah. We do have Spock doing the mind meld near the Vulcan that is like a forced mind meld.
Yeah, he has to force it so that they can figure out who's behind the assassination. Because when they figure out it's Vulcan in the city, Kim Cattrall, when they figure out that it's her that's actually part of the conspiracy, he forces a mind meld, and she tries to resist because she's Vulcan, so she can, more so than a human can at least. And he kind of forces it and gets like the one of the humans that's on the council was involved, as was the Romulan.
It feels pretty aggressive.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that scene. As much as the reveal of her is kind of underwhelming, that scene of him kind of forcing it as like you say, is aggressive. It feels like Spock's overstepping a line to a point, but at the same time he has to, otherwise.
It's it's kind of the greater good, right?
Yeah.
It's the needs of the many here.
Outweigh the needs of you, you traitorous bitch.
Pretty much.
Yes. So no. I dug that scene. So there's a lot of individual scenes that are really good. I like the overall arc with the Klingons in the piece. It's just that the prison break stuff feels really simplistic for what it is, as does the stopping the assassination. I wish I'm actually okay with the prison break being quick. I think the stopping the assassination should have been more of a build up and more of a, okay, we need to figure out what their plan is. We need to figure out where they're going to go. How are we going to stop this?
Yeah, I agree. There's the makings of a really good movie here.
Yeah.
It's just kind of thrown in. I don't know, refine these ideas.
Yeah.
Expand on certain areas.
Yeah, I like McCoy even getting in on the torpedo though, like, because they would figure out how to maybe kind of fire a torpedo that'll track the invisible ship, and then once that happens, Sulu shows up with the Excelsior and blasts it to hell. He's like, just target that explosion, that fire, just target that, go for it. And that was good because Sulu's kind of got their back because Starfleet's want to call in the Enterprise because they want to get them out of the situation, and they ask Sulu like, well, where do you know where the Enterprise is? And Sulu's like, to Kristen Slater, he's like, we don't know a thing. And he's like, but sir, it's like, your hearing impaired there, Lieutenant? Go.
Yeah, and then when Kirk contacts him later, or maybe he contacts Kirk, I'm hazy which way around it is, and Kirk's like, you could be in pretty serious trouble just for talking to us. And so it's like, what was that? You didn't catch that.
Yeah. So he'll always be part of the Enterprise. His heart's always there.
Exactly.
Nah. Whenever we talked about the character that helps them escape, but it's all a ruse to get them to try and escape so they can shoot them, basically, without any thingy. So we have this mysterious shapeshifter who kind of helps.
This is a part that, to me, I don't know why it's even in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, the logic behind it's not terrible. Like, it's like, okay, so there's people who just want them to be dead, so they want to like set them up so they can just shoot them.
It's fine as an idea. I don't think it adds anything at all to the movie. Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. I guess I guess the Enterprise just breaking him out when he's when they're on transport to the planet or something would have been more that said, though, they set up that if the Enterprise try to break them out, then it'll be an act of war. Whereas technically, what actually happens is they're just out in the cold and they get beamed up.
Yeah, well, so I get it. Just, I don't know. It felt like just because we need something happening.
Need to rate around that a little bit, I suppose. Yeah, like I say, I wish it really just dealt with the or anything. Just, I mean, I know it takes away the trial scene, which you like, but if anything, just have Kirk and McCoy manage to escape the ship when they try to arrest them, so that they're on the Enterprise trying to be part of figure out who's behind this, and then just have the rest of the movie be about trying to stop the second assassination attempt.
Yeah.
That makes some sense to me. So, but I mean, faults and all, it's not a bad movie, I don't think.
Yeah. Do you know one of the things that actually this isn't like, oh, this is awful, but really confused me.
Go on.
There's a bit towards the end when they're communicating with the Klingons, and apparently they have no knowledge whatsoever of the Klingon language.
Oh, actually, I was going to talk about this. I'm glad you brought this up.
She's just there, like, flicking through the books.
See, I have no problem with them not knowing Klingon, right? I have no problem with that. My question, though, is Kirk even references at one point a universal translator in this very movie. So, are you telling me that the ship's computer doesn't have a translator on board? Like, or even if it didn't, they can't just use one of their translators to translate it?
Yeah, thing. They communicate with a lot of alien species, right?
Yeah.
And Klingons are their main enemy as far as they're concerned. I feel like they'd have a fundamental understanding, even if not on a personal level, the ship. Do you know what the funny thing is, though? Is I actually really enjoy the scene for the comedy, because it is funny when it cuts to them and they're all, like, Scotty's there with the book and like everyone's got dictionaries out and they're all trying to figure out. And they're speaking gibberish essentially. Yeah, they're trying to say things back to them and then they have to like fake the laugh to the Klingons. Like, it's actually a really funny little comedy scene. The problem is that we have the technology to translate this. It's funny. It just makes no sense. Yeah, it makes no sense. Yeah. It felt forced because of that. Yeah. But
Yeah, because it was like 3 scenes earlier when Kirk first gets to the prison. An alien tries talking to him, and he mentions, "Oh, they took my universal translator off me when they arrested me."
Not so universal.
Yeah, and I'm like, "What? The computer on the ship can't just do this natively? What?" But
Yeah.
hey, whatever. Like, there you go. It's like a minor detail overall. It's not a big deal, but it stuck out to me when I was watching it. I'm not someone who likes to like get hung up on like, well, technically they established this technology at some point. So
This one was just jarring.
yeah, this one felt a bit weird though because it was such a simple little thing.
Like communication has never been a problem at all, really, in Star Trek.
No, so yeah, they did it for the joke. They wanted to have the joke of them all having like dozens of books around them, and
which I get. It is funny. It just it felt like, oh, we really want to do this.
But hey ho. But yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's definitely of the weaker half. If you only for 6 movies, you're gonna have a weaker half and a better half. Oh, to be honest, I would say it's more a shit one, which is 5, then an okay sort of middle tier with some good elements, which is 3 and 6, and then I quite like 1, 2, and 4.
Yes, a very good to great tier.
Yes, so there you go. That is the adventures of the original crew, complete. Outside of the animated series, which who knows, maybe one day we'll go back and do when we run out of everything else. But for right now, we are going on to the next generation. We will take a week off though. There will not be one next week. We'll be back.
I think it'll be 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks off.
Yeah. I mean, this is going up.
Oh, I can just tell you, next generation, the pilot, will be going up for patrons on Christmas Day, and it'll be going up for everyone else on New Year's Day. There you go. That's easy to remember, right? Can't get simpler than that.
It is. So if you're in the general public, you're watching this on YouTube, New Year's Day, there you go.
Yeah, so so you can look forward to that. We should rate the movie though. We should rate Undiscovered Country.
We should. I'm feeling like around a 5.5 to a 6. Because I feel like even a 6 might be a bit too generous in that I feel like it's a really undercooked movie, but it has just enough things that I like. So I think I'll give it to it, but it's a very tepid 6.
Let's see. I gave Search for Spock a 7, and I think I'd probably rate this 6.5, just slightly lower than Search for Spock. And I think the reason why I would do that is kind of like I said. I think Search for Spock has higher highs. It also has lower lows. But it does have higher highs. So even though if you were purely logical about it, like Spock, they'd probably average out to the same quality in my head. But because the higher highs stick with me more,
yeah,
I stretch Search for Spock to a 7, but I'll go 6.5 on this one. So the only one that I think is outright bad is 5.
Yeah, I think 5's really bad. I think Search for Spock's pretty bad, personally.
Yeah,
but whatever.
You like a lot of shit Doctor Who episodes, so I mean your judgment's impaired.
And you like the shit ones.
Well, no, I like one that you think is shit.
I know is shit.
No.
But before we go, we have one last thing to talk about.
We do.
We have Shatner Clause.
Oh, you listen to Shatner Clause, okay.
Oh, I listen to Shatner Clause.
Alright, bonus round, Shatner Clause thoughts and impressions, which is William Shatner's new Christmas album that you can get on your Spotify's now, I assume.
You can. It's kind of the spoken word thing that he does. A lot of guests. Iggy Pop was on one of them. Okay. Yeah, so there's a bit of a mixture. You got some kind of just somber, traditional style, almost carol-esque ones, and then you've got others that are kind of bluesy or rocky. There's a punk version of Jingle Bells that closes off the album. That's kind of fun. He is having a lot of fun with that one in particular. That one and Feliz Navidad, he is having a lot of fun with. Just going for it.
What does Shatner's punk singing voice sound like?
It's more of a aggressive semi-shouting. I recommend listening to that if nothing else.
My
Just
name
that.
is Tiberius Kirk.
Yeah, yeah. I recommend checking out that one if nothing else. Um, it's fine. It's actually a pretty standard Christmas fare. You won't go too far wrong with it. It's not amazing, stand out, but
Shatner Claus. Okay. All
Shatner,
right.
it's worth it just for the name.
All right. Uh, so
Just
oh,
also other small update. I tried to do the Star Trek tree. I told girlfriend. I was like, look, I know you want to do Christmas and you got your tree, and I'll usually let you decorate it. Not this year. We're doing a Star Trek Christmas. And she went, and where are you going to get all this Star Trek tree stuff from? And I went, Amazon. Because Amazon has my back on everything. Except this. Can't be done. Couldn't find a single Star Trek bauble. So, what are you going to do? But I tried.
I have to custom. I'm sure you could like, just get some like enterprise keychains and like just use them.
I could. I was talking to someone about it at work, and she goes, "Why don't you just order them?" She was like, I was looking at ordering some baubles, and then she went, "But you do have to do corporate size orders." And I went, "How much is a corporate size order?" And she went, "Minimum of 500."
That makes me think of that scene in Batman Begins where they're ordering the ears and the kills, and he says, "Oh, to avoid suspicion, we'll have to do a large order as a company." He's like, "How many? 10,000. Oh, we'll have spares then."
Yeah, and if I had more money, I might have done it. I might have gone for the joke.
You'd had to have like filled out a cupboard full of
Yeah, yeah.
spares, but all right.
I'd have just taken everyone's getting Star Trek baubles for Christmas.
There you go. There you go.
That would have been it.
Everyone gets a set of 10.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
you go.
Even people I don't like. Hey, you at work, here's some Star Trek baubles.
What a weird and specific gift.
Yes, it's almost like I had hundreds left over.
I don't even like Star Trek. Tough. Here's some Star Trek bubbles. Anyway, so that'll wrap up the Undiscovered Country review. By all means, of course, let us know what you thought of the movie. If you want to support the show and support our Star Trek discussions and the ongoing adventure, which is going to continue through Next Gen and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise, which will take years, but we're going to do them all.
We'll get there.
You can go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and you can support us over there for as little as $1 per month, which does get you the Star Trek discussions a week early, as we said, and some other stuff as well. But go have a look. Otherwise, you can support us by liking and subscribing, because YouTube cares about that stuff quite a bit when it recommends us out to people. But otherwise, yeah, thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And to everyone but Connor, live long and prosper.
You know you need to start doing the hand sign when you do that.
And to everyone but Connor, live long and prosper.